Have you ever had someone ask you, why do you listen to heavy metal? How could you listen to something that's so evil and so destructive? The world can't figure out how in the world something like heavy metal could rise from obscurity without any support from the mainstream, didn't get support from radio stations, didn't get support from the mainstream media. In fact, if anything, back in the 1980s, I remember some of my favorite heavy metal stars were in courts being accused of causing kids to commit suicide. How can something then so destructive, full of evil and horns and skulls, be that much of a positive influence on anybody's life? Heavy metal still grows to this day, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. And now it's even reached into the mainstream. You go to a football game and you're going to hear heavy metal. Metallica was recently declared to be the biggest live act of all time, the biggest touring band of all time. This is a thrash band, a thrash heavy metal band. Regardless of what you think about Metallica or their history, that's pretty significant, man, that the biggest touring band of all time is Metallica. That's how big heavy metal is. How could something then, which people think is so destructive, be such a motivating driving force for so many people's lives? I've always said it this way: what heavy metal did for me is what I'm doing for others, and that's what it means to be a metal motivator. Heavy metal has always been the soundtrack of my life. It's always been the thing that has driven me when nothing else could. Sure, I find inspiration in all sorts of places. I've read things that are inspiring. I've seen things that are inspiring. But nothing continually moves me more than heavy metal. All kinds of heavy metal. I know there's all kinds of genres and people battle about those things, but when you get down to its core, nobody listens to something that's going to be destructive for their life consistently. Those who were listening to heavy metal back in the day when I was in the late 70s and early 80s, man, they are still listening to it today. Once heavy metal has you, it has you for life. I never really met anybody who was into real metal back in the 80s and then they left it back then. Sure, it may have gone a little bit dormant, but it doesn't take much to stir it up again. Most people who were seriously into metal back in the 80s are still into that today. And they don't have to necessarily be walking around with long hair and concert t-shirts and all that sort of stuff. You see people in all walks of life that are die-hard metalheads. They might listen to it on their own in the car, but they're still listening to metal. Whether it's the classic metal, keeping up with the new metal, metal still rules, because metal is an attitude. Metal is a lifestyle. Metal is a culture. It's something that you participate in. There's almost a religious-like adherence to heavy metal. And that's not a bad thing. People try to make it a bad thing. They say, could you listen to something that's so destructive? It's not destructive. It's filled with hyperbole. Sure, it's filled with myth and legend, brutality, all of these things. But heavy metal has always done that. See, I remember when I was a kid, when I would watch TV, I'd see shows like I Love Lucy and all of those other early TV shows, and I would see when they would go into the master bedroom and there would be two twin beds in a master bedroom, two twin beds. Well, I looked in my parents' bedroom and I didn't see two twin beds. I saw a big king-size bed. So what was the disparity? Well, because at that time, culture was real plastic, and they didn't want to show what a real bedroom looked like. So they had to show two twin beds. And then by the time you got to the early 70s, film began to change. TV began to change. Things began to get more realistic. Sitcoms like All in the Family and Good Times used to get more realistic. Horror films like The Exorcist got more realistic, because what happens is at some point somebody's going to pull the veil off a plastic society and force it to look at the evils that lie underneath. Heavy metal has always done that. Heavy metal was not singing about pop-oriented stuff, bubblegum topics. It was talking about things and attitudes in life in a way that only a certain elements of art and media would address. But still, it was always motivating. You don't take necessarily classical music. Some people may do it, but for the most part, you don't take classical music to the gym. People tend to take something that's going to be more aggressive, whether it's metal or rock or hip hop, something like that. It's going to be something that's more aggressive. Heavy metal is healthy aggression. That's why I use as a subtitle for my page, Daily Screams for Living Aggressively. That's why I sign a lot of my emails saying, stay aggressive. Because aggression is a good thing when it's healthy. And heavy metal is a healthy form of aggression because it will help you to channel a lot of angst, a lot of stress, a lot of emotion. Heavy metal can lift you up when you're feeling down. Heavy metal can help reset your mind, reset your attitude, get you back into a place of a dominant position. And this is the secret here. That's why I called it, again, Daily Screams for Living Aggressively. Metal Motivation, Daily Screams for Living Aggressively. Because I realized, and people began to tell me eventually, that all they need is a little inspiration. All they need is a little motivation to help them make it through another day, because that's where a lot of people are. I wish they could get past that, but that's just where a lot of people are. They need that little bit of inspiration, that little bit of motivation to help them get through another day. Heavy metal will do that for you. So if you're not much of a heavy metal fan, then I encourage you to get started. I encourage you to start listening to some of this stuff today. It's not going to hurt you, right? It's not going to destroy your life. Now, there are all kinds. Some of it can get, really, really brutal. Some of it is very political. Some of it is humorous. Some of it is tremendously evil. I mean, and some of these guys and gals actually mean what they say. In the end, though, what we listen to is eventually going to shape our attitudes. And I don't see, for the most part, heavy metal causing destruction, heavy metal causing a bunch of evil to take place. Yeah, you can always find me these specific instances where somebody sacrificed this or somebody shot their friend or somebody did this. I understand. Somebody burned a church. I get it. Okay, I understand. People can take things too far, but people can take things too far in anything, right? You can't necessarily blame it on the music per se. Heavy metal is an attitude-shaping form of music. That's why people listen to it. It's not necessarily easy listening, right? You don't mellow out to metal, you go out to seek and destroy. It's to help you push forward. It's to help you drive yourself forward. It's to help you get to where you need to get to in life, man. And it's like a drug. It's like it's something that can inspire. It's something that can push you forward. It can something that you can keep you driving when nothing else will. Motivated by metal. And that's why I created Metal Motivation, Daily Screams for Living Aggressively back in Halloween of 2009. That's why I call myself a metal motivator. You're a metal motivator, man. You can be that. Wherever your high tops take you, you can bring influence and change. So that's all I'm doing, man. The attitude and the mindset that metal helped to give me is what I'm trying to give to other people. That's what it means to be a metal motivator, which is why you can be one too. Now, that's what I'm covering in this new 5-message series simply called Motivated by Metal. And this is all shown in my Life Domination online coaching group, which is something I would love for you to join. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of metal. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's motivated me. I'm going to talk a little bit more and break down this idea of motivated by metal, heavy metal. So if you'd like to be a part of that, join my Life Domination online coaching group. We talk about in this group a whole lot of other things. In fact, as of this date in my video archives, I have done since 2015 when I started the Life Domination online coaching group, over 1,000 videos on over 200 topics, all sorts of things, life, relationships, money, health and fitness, you name it. It's all been covered. Career, making decisions, emotion, getting things under control, getting out of your rut, getting your life together again. That's what we do in the Life Domination online coaching group. Yes, it does cost. Very inexpensive, very easy to do. It all takes place in a private Facebook group, which I administrate. That means you and I get a chance to work a little more closely together. The only other people in the group are people just like you, motivated people trying to change their life. So there's no negativity, no naysayers. You get access to that archives of videos that I mentioned, as well as each new video series each week. So join today. I would love to have you. Less than $20 a month, and you can quit anytime. That's a very, very small price to pay for a changed life. So visit the link below, metalmotivation.com/life domination coaching. This is CJ, the Metal Motivator. And remember, in whatever you do, don't suck metal up.